Let's go ahead and welcome in ESPN's Todd Archer. Ladies and gentlemen, Todd, thanks for the time, my friend. About a week out from camp. How's the body feeling? Best shape of your life season?
Absolutely, yeah, always.
Been putting that work in.
Long, hard time last week in the Outer Banks working out, getting ready.
I'll tell you what, well, it's good to have you back and excited about the upcoming season. Todd, I know you and I were talking about some things earlier. There's some questions about you have what Dak Prescott actually said about. I know that it's kind of running rampant right now about this interception number. What do you know about it? Did he say what he said, or did he say something completely different? Correct us all, please.
I saw the quote where it said, "I won't throw 10 interceptions this year," and I was like, "Whoa, wow!" I was there when he said this, so I went back and listened. And from my recorder, it says, "We won't have the tipped interceptions this year," based on the impact that he believes McCarthy will have on the offense. And McCarthy talks about like timing the quarterback's footwork to the routes and all that kind of stuff that was kind of an issue last year on some of Dak's interceptions. Now that quote is like, oh, Kellen, or he's throwing shade on Kellen Moore. No, he's not doing that either. He's just explaining the difference in how the schemes operated between. This is why social media is the worst, because you can't get enough context into the character. So we should all just avoid social media at all costs.
I'll co-sign that. Yeah, almost got lost in the sauce and butt cracked on that particular quote earlier as well. So I appreciate you clarifying that for us. Is the offense and the way it looks with the new play caller and stuff like that, is that the most interesting thing to you coming into camp, or is there something else?
I mean, it kind of has to be, right? Just because of the nature of the positions of both involved. The head coach, Mike McCarthy, taking over the job that he didn't want to do and wanted to continue with Kellen Moore, and now calling plays for the first time since 2018, and bringing in a, if not new offense, at least a altered offense. And now how Dak Prescott reacts to an altered offense for the first time in his career, because this has been the same scheme that he's run since 2016. So that, to me, that has to be the story of the Cowboys training camp, and how those two meld together and how they play calling quarterback. We've heard Dak thousands of times compliment Kellen and how important he was to his development and what he meant to him. Now it's Mike McCarthy getting the chance, in some cases, I guess, in a way maybe that Jason Garrett didn't get at the end of his tenure, to call plays and do what he did best in Green Bay. How those guys come together will go a long way in determining the Cowboys' success this season. I still think the Cowboys are a really good team, but there might be some times where they got to figure each other out. And that's why I wonder if I asked Dak this at the same deal at his camp. Hey, man, are you going to play in this preseason? So you and Mike kind of get a in-game feeling with it. He wasn't sure, but maybe that's something they consider where they've really not played him very much in the preseason the last few years.
Todd, you can correct me if I'm wrong. When Brian Schottenheimer, when he was interviewed, he was talking about that 70% of the offense would remain the same. Am I wrong about that?
Yeah, they've used those terms. I mean, yeah.
Okay, can I ask you then? I'm sure
that's just like elementary, right?
Okay, yeah. Can I ask you then? Okay, if they're gonna, if the 70% say remains the same, elementary as you'd say, what do you think the 30% is they're working on? What do you think? Is it a screen package stuff? Is it the deceptives that they might use? What do you have an idea what how to run the football better in the second half?
I think some of it we'll find out more once we get to Oxnard a little bit. But I'll go on something that Jerry Jones has talked to us in the handful of times we got in this offseason, and it's their protection.
Okay.
They think they'll run the ball fine. They ran the ball fine last year. They can probably do a little bit better, but their protection needs to improve and be more shored up. And how they do that, I think, will be different. And again, football for dummies like me, maybe I'm not going to see that in Oxnard, but you'll see the running backs maybe involved a little bit differently, or how they call things, or how Dak, again, West Coast, and Broad, tell me if I'm wrong in this, West Coast offenses, you're reading it from low to high.
Right.
The Cowboys offense, you're reading it, the old offense was high to low.
Right.
So that changes things a little bit. That alters your protection and helps you get the ball out quicker, things like that. I think that's kind of what they were getting at, is what will be different. But, and I know you hate this, Broadus, Schottenheimer also said it's not like the offense was broken, and I know you're going to say, well, why'd they change all the coaches?
Yeah.
But they were. You can't say the Cowboys were a bad offense.
No, you can't.
Now
you can't.
Situationally, they were at, in their biggest games, they didn't perform. That's every team that doesn't win the Super Bowl. They're going to have games where they don't perform. So I think there is a good deal to keep in place here for Dak, who has excelled, but you bring in some changes with the protection schemes of Mike Solari and some of the things that McCarthy wants to do and how he'll call plays. I think you'll see. Well, I guess that's 30% difference.
Okay, yeah, and that's good. That's a good answer there. But I'll say this about the coaching staff. And Todd, you've covered this league a long time, and Cincinnati, the Dolphins, the Cowboys. Now, have you ever seen a staff that's had this much? Other than okay, I know when they fire coaches or let coaches go, the head coach, it's a whole new staff. But have you ever seen a staff, basically the whole offensive staff, turn over like they have?
Yeah. Now you got me thinking.
There's some of those days you were dealing with when they're 1-15 at the Dolphins or some crazy thing like that.
No, they were never that bad in Miami when I was there, but they did go from
Cam Cameron. You weren't a Cam Cameron guy,
no,
were you?
No,
okay.
I was Dave Wanstead. I was after Jimmy when Dave won.
Gotcha.
So they did go from like Chan Gailey to Norv Turner. So that I'm sure there was some change over there. I couldn't give you the specifics. When I was covering the Bengals, there really, was Bruce Coslett mostly, and Ken Anderson, those guys, then Paul Alexander, that offense, Jim Anderson, that offense stayed the same staff. So that I would probably say the Dolphins one changed a little bit, but maybe it hasn't been where a scenario, and again, trying to think like, sometime in Garrett's era when Colombo became the offensive line coach, and they changed out Ray Sherman, they changed out Skip Heat, they changed that. I don't know the years of all those, but maybe all in 1 year in one fell swoop, or it's all different. It's 3-4 different guys. That's a little different, but
is that something we should worry about though? If you're a Cowboy fan, should you?
Okay, Broadus. Now you're giving my theory on coaches. What matters most on the coaching staff is the offensive line coach, your whole line coach.
Yeah, there you
go.
go.
The other ones, you could coach them and they'd be fine. I don't mean to denigrate coaches, but I think some of it is.
Oh, don't worry about
that. They're really good at what
they're fine.
Yeah. They're really good at what they do, and the players are really good at what they do. I think those are the three most important coaches on your staff are your OC, DC, and O-line coach, and we'll see what kind of difference Mike Solari can make.
Talking Cowboys with ESPN's Todd Archer here on your home of the Cowboys, 105.3 The Fan. Tony Pollard does not get the contract extension done, so he will be playing on the tag as we expected. He's signed it, so he will be at camp and rocking and rolling. Do you expect this, Todd, to go the same way it did with Dalton Schultz? This will be the last year of Pollard in a Cowboy uniform?
Yeah, and it's funny. I'm writing something up just about that. And it's funny. I forgot about Dalton. I'll have to throw his name in the story now.
There you go.
But I do, because not so much of what Tony Pollard will do or will not do, but so much of what the Cowboys have to do for their cap, right? If they don't sign Diggs or Steele, say, this summer or during the season, well, they're going to need to tag for one of those guys. And would you rather tag a starting cornerback, your starting right tackle, and yes, I'm calling Steele the right tackle, or would you rather tag a running back? I think you'd tag the other two positions before you put the second tag on a runner. If he has a huge season and they're able to get those guys, then maybe things change a little bit, but you have to figure out all the economics of not just 2024, but 25, 26. You got Micah coming up. You got Dak Prescott's contract coming up where you're going to have to do some things. So there's a lot of planning that have to go forward. And, now we can talk about the devaluing of the running back position. I do think the runner matters, but I do think you can get a lot of runners that can make up the production at a different cost than what you'd have to pay to keep a guy, which is why you didn't see Josh Jacobs get a deal. You didn't see Saquon Barkley get a deal. And you didn't see Pollard get an extension after he signed the tag. Like, I don't know what were the deals that Miles Sanders and drawing the blank on the other running back this year that signed a semi-good deal. You saw Joe Mixon take a pay cut.
Joe Mixon, yeah.
I mean, you're seeing – I wish I had the numbers in front of me, but the next year's tag for a running back might be lower than $10.1 million the way this is going. So it's a product of the position that they play, not the productivity that they pull out. And I think that's one thing that Pollard will run into next year. The Cowboys need to find a way to keep Diggs, Steele, effectively CeeDee Lamb as well, though they got the 2024 option, and then all the guys, Tyler Biadasz, all this stuff that just the position that he plays might make the Cowboys look on somewhere else, similar to what they did when they let DeMarco Murray go after he led the league in rushing. They never really made a huge play to keep him, much to Garrett's chagrin.
Yeah.
And obviously but then they laid out huge cash on Zeke. And let's not forget, Zeke's going to cost like $5.8 million against this year's cap and $6 million against next year's cap. So while he's not around, there's still that money that's going to be in the running back room when you factor it in against the cap.
Todd, can you give us an idea of who you think the 5 starters on the offensive line are going to be for that game against the Giants opening day?
Okay, well now, is everybody healthy? So basically, you're asking me.
I'm just just go ahead and give me your best 5 that you think are going to line up and play.
Tyron Smith's going to be healthy. He's the left tackle. Tyler Smith is the left guard. Biadasz is at center. Zach Martin and Terrence Steele. That's their best 5. I mean, I don't know how else. Now, look, Tyron might not make it out of training camp. Tyron might get hurt in week 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever.
Yeah.
Then I'm moving Tyler Smith to left tackle again. This doesn't seem that hard to me, but it seems like they want to, square peg, round hole, square peg, whatever that thing is.
Yeah.
This whole deal. Don't make it so hard. Just play your best 5 guys. You saw Tyler Smith do a good job at left guard. He can switch out to left tackle. Throw Chuma Adoga or whoever you want in it at left guard.
Yeah.
Well, whatever.
Yeah.
At some point you don't need 5 first-round picks to win in this league. Other teams are showing that. And look, you hired Mike Solari. He's a new line coach. Hey, dude, figure it out. This is what you guys get paid to do. But I think their best 5 to me is pretty obvious. I don't know why they would look at it any differently.
Todd, is this the Cowboys' best chance to get to the Super Bowl with the way that the quarterback situation is in the NFC conference?
I mean, you have to say yes, right? I mean, if you want to say Jalen Hurts is the best in the conference, fine. He's taken a team to a Super Bowl. Gotcha. Okay. How's Dak not number 2?
Yeah.
Right? I mean, we don't know if Brock Purdy is going to be healthy to play this season. You don't know what Trey Lance is. Aaron Rodgers is gone. I think we'd all agree Dak is better than Kirk Cousins, although I do like what Cousins is doing on this Netflix series on the quarterback thing. It's been pretty interesting when I've watched.
That guy in Detroit, huh? The guy in Detroit, they'll be better, right?
Yeah. I mean, but Dak isn't Dak better than him too?
Sure.
I mean,
sure.
And when has a team gone from not making the playoffs to going to making this huge jump that in a franchise like Detroit, that by the way has been in a longer NFC title drought than the Cowboys. Same thing with Washington. This is their best chance. And part of me wonders, is that what the Cowboys are waiting to see before they get fully invested into a Dak extension? Where maybe that's something that they wait a little bit before they get going, because look, he's going to count $59 million against the cap next year in the last year of his deal. You can kind of make the numbers work there if you just wait. You don't if the number's going to go from $40 million a year to $50 million a year, is it that big of a deal against the cap nowadays? I don't know what is. Although I do want to say one thing, Jalen Hurts had a great season last year, took his team to a Super Bowl, MVP conversation, all that kind of stuff. If Dak Prescott had a fumble in the Super Bowl that was returned for a touchdown and their team and the Cowboys lost by 3 points, would anybody have forgotten that fumble the entire offseason?
They wouldn't have. No.
That's one thing when Dak, again, when we talked to him a couple weeks ago, it's look, we're a talking point. He knows why everybody's talking about his interceptions last year. He's he's not throwing a pass in 200 some odd days, but we're still acting like every pass he threw last year was a pick.
Todd, you're a beast. Thanks as always. We greatly appreciate it, and we look forward to seeing you next week.
Yep, sounds good. See you, fellas.